country. Right off the bat, as you can see in this chart right here, the PSEi, but still not enough to put the index back on track. The main investors dumping some through 362.2 million pesos worth of stocks. That's net foreign selling for the 11th straight day. Now, Chris Mangun of AAA Equity said in this morning's were reported in the country, looking at this 3-day chart of the PSEi record level to where it is now. Now, Mangun added that investors, it didn't help that a Delta case was reported in central one of the local cases. All in all, according to the DOH, the variant, of course, had, and that regional fear of the Delta variant has weighed heavily on Asian stocks. Asia, you have the topics in the Nikkei, all both in the red here. COVID cases have been reported even in the Olympic Village in 0.7%. Same scenario for Shanghai and Shenzhen here, although more muted losses for both gauges here. Same case as well for the Aussie stocks here. The S&P 200 is down close to 0.9%. Same thing with the Kospi, also losing big, down by 8%. Now also in the green, Bloomberry-led declines, lower by 5.7% than 4%. A number of stocks also shedding off more than 3%, weakening the peso as expected. That saw a 0.5% June of last year. When it comes to mobile numbers, starting September 30, users as well as third player Dito Telecommunities said they implement fraud and security safeguards and optimize back-end, which would aid number porting services. This was jointly put up by the Liberalization Act and the standalone Department for Overseas Philippines to finish the deliberation on key economic bills by next month. Or the Solo Parents Act, the postponement rather. Several senators, including Zubiri, are now preparing for next year's. The fate of Bayanihan 3 in the upper chamber remains uncertain. The lower house speed things up for the measure. Let's get the thoughts of one of its more vocal proponents, Marikina Representative Stella Quimbo. Good afternoon, Representative Quimbo.
Good afternoon, Jes. Thanks for having me.
Okay, ma'am. As part of Congress, what's the overall stand earlier of Senator Zubiri during Laging Handa? There is no...
They're probably looking for signals from the executive. They've already funds are available. In other words, there would be also willingness on the party's point. But of course, given the latest Fitch report, I as well as economic managers, that perhaps they should again change the outlook from a negative to at least stable.
Support here from the executive department, more signals, and the pandemic situation is about to get worse. How much?
The main ingredient really is, again, that certificate of fund availability, which will be forthcoming if, of course, economic managers would say that indeed funds are available, indeed savings had been identified from, for example, the 2020 budget. And in fact, there are savings from Bayanihan 2, which an economic stimulus package
how much are we talking about here when it comes to savings from Bayanihan to your creative avenues that you're looking at in order to at least fund them?
That's divided into 3 tranches. And for the first tranche, we're looking at Bayanihan 2 in addition to savings from the 29 GOCCs from 50% to 75%. That's what we need to know from the economic managers. At the end of the day, really, it's the call of the economic.
The country's, at least the outlook here from ratings outlook. What's your take on that? Is Bayanihan 3 really going
to improve the situation? But I think it will certainly help. If we are able to improve upon the pandemic management and reduce the adverse effects, particularly on the economy, then that would perhaps improve our the outlook of Fitch, right? And let me just mention that Bayanihan 3 is not only about spending more, compensating and protecting our frontliners. So when we need to actually extend. So that's we talk about Bayanihan 3. There's also another aspect to Bayanihan 3 that are essential towards managing the health response.
Bayanihan 3 fades with the submission of the 2022 budget
to the governor. Government spending is a form of economic stimulus, but by measures on how spending for economic stimulus, particularly with the disbursement for the ayuda provisions that would ensure transparency as well as integrity.
A leftover budget, like what we saw in Bayanihan too.
Well, I have a lot of optimism that we've learned from our previous mistakes. Of course, the pandemic is something new. We were all caught by surprise. It's really going to be unfair for us to expect that on day one, government should know exactly 15 months. We've already had two Bayanihan bills.
Now, one other interesting thing that I would have to ask you is that BSP got more fiscal leeway. Are you at least open to that a situation better?
Well, in theory, that will help guide the LGUs. So at this point in time, if you head and read the local government code, unfortunately, want them to spend, meaning more spending for health, more space, meaning there are no specific protocol, for example, on evaluating as well as incentivizing LGUs. So many, in fact, are in agreement, including, for example, there's a study, I think, or there was a presentation recently given by the ADB, and then they said that, uh, this
Of course, and also, of course, absorptive capacities, prospects here for the country as well. Can you comment as well on that?
health response to the pandemic. So especially, let's use all those lessons. If we have a really good response to COVID, I think.
Marikina Representative Stella Quimbo.
Thank you.
A.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close.